Hello everyone. Is my voice audible, guys? So in last session, we have explored how to create a card, right? We have seen how to create a simple card using JSX. Then we have seen how to reuse user interface. Then we have seen how to create user interface inside the JavaScript function. Apart from that, we have seen how to pass dynamic data to the UI. This is what we have seen in the last session. So in last session, we have created like this card. Then we have created this kind of card, this kind of user interface inside the JavaScript function. And we are able to yeah. Is my voice audible now clearly? Let me know, guys, in case if
Yes,
there
sir.
is any issues with my voice. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So so here yesterday we are able to pass different user names, right? So have you guys done passing different image URLs? Are you able to show different images on your card? How many of you tried? Let me know on the chat how many of you tried. No one tried. How many of you tried but was not able to implement? So if you don't try, then you will face a lot of issues in React case. So React is all about practice. If you don't practice on the same day, I will give you a guarantee that in coming sessions, you will lose interest and you won't even understand one concept also in React. So remember, React is a very complicated library. It's not a straightforward library. So if you won't practice, you will face issues. You will face issues. Okay? So make sure you are practicing on the same day. And whatever initial classes are there, all these are the base for your React. So if you don't understand initial classes or if you don't practice initial classes, then in coming sessions, whenever I take any advanced concepts, there you will get confused because there I will directly use the concept. I won't explain your basics again. I will directly use JSX. I will directly pass arguments. I will not even explain why I am passing. I will simply say that I am passing arguments because I want dynamic data. So here we are learning basics. So make sure you guys are practicing. Okay. So if I just go to our code, If I open this card FN, now this is the code we have written in last session. So first we have created one simple JavaScript function. Inside that function, we have written the code to create a card. Now to this div, we have assigned some class, and to this class, we have added some style using internal style. Internal style. So this function creates only one card. Now to this function, we are passing one parameter, and that parameter we are binding with our h3. Now what I want, this image I want dynamic. Dynamic means in every card, I want to show different image. It means this part should be dynamic. So what we will do, instead of taking variable like this inside our component, inside our function, we will take here one more parameter, that is image URL. And this image URL parameter, we will bind with our src attribute. Now, whenever you are calling this function, you have to pass that argument. So here we are passing name. In the same way, you have to pass URL as. So what I will do, I will just try to grab this image from here itself, and I will paste this URL. I will save it. I will load this document in my browser. Now see, in only one card, we are able to show the image. In remaining cards, we are not able to show any kind of images. Why? Because we are not passing second argument for next function call. So I want different URL. So what I will do, I will just try to get some images from the internet. I will just say here female professional image. I will just try to grab some image, copy image link, paste as a second argument. In the same way, I can search for male professional profile. I can just grab some image here, right click, copy image link, and pass as a second argument for our third function call. Same thing with the next image also. Just you have to copy image link and you have to pass. Same thing what we have done for name, same thing we are doing for image also. If I go back to my, let me close this. If I refresh here, now you should be able to see all the images. Now see, we are able to pass show different images plus different names. So what we did for that, simply we have created a function. In that function, we are taking two parameters. These parameters we are binding with our JSX. We are binding with our JSX. And whenever we want to call this function, we are passing two arguments. We are just passing two arguments. So whenever you will call that function, you will pass two arguments. So same JavaScript concept we are applying here. How do we pass input data to function? In the same way we are doing here as well. Okay. Let's try one more example. So what I want to do, I want to create some containers. I want to create like this one container. Inside this container, I want to display some title. For example, here I am displaying React. After displaying this title, I want to display some paragraph here. I want to display some paragraph. Then finally, I want to display one button. I want to display like this one button. Like this container I want to create. Okay, that is our first step. Second step will be, we will repeat this container. We will create like this same container multiple times. That will be our second step. Third step will be, in each container, we have to show different data. Here I am showing React.js. In another container, I want to show Angular. In another container, I want to show Node.js. In another container, I want to show MongoDB. Like this, in different container, different data we want to show. And we are going to write the code only one time to create the container. And from next time, we will reuse that code. Okay. So first step is, let's create a container like this. Let's create a container like this. Okay, so this example will be completely revision for last session concept. So let's create a container. So for this, what we have to do, we have to go to our VS Code. First, create one file. I will say here, tech container .html. Create one HTML file. After creating HTML file, paste your template here. So whatever template you have created, copy this template, add this template inside your tech container. So inside this template, what code we have written? We have written the basic HTML code. We have added 3 script tags. The first script tag is related to React. Second script tag is related to React DOM. Third script tag is related to Babel. Then inside the body, we have taken one div with the ID root. It's here you can take anything. I'm just taking root. You can take anything, whatever you want. I will say here core element. Whatever ID you want, you can take. You don't have any such restrictions. I have taken a script tag where I will write my React code, and I have added here one attribute called type equals to text slash Babel. So this attribute indicates inside this script tag, we are going to write JSX code. This script tag contains JSX code. That is what this particular attribute indicates. Now here what I want to do, I want to create like this a container. So to create like this container, for creating a container, I will take a div element. I will take this div element. So what I will do, first, I will create user interface without function. So here I will take const. I will say here tech container equals to, here I will assign one div to it. I will assign one div to it. So this is just a variable. So to take a variable, you can use whatever scope statement you want. You can use var, let, or const. So I have taken a div. Now this div I want to show in this shape. So for that purpose, what I will do, to this div, I will assign one ID, and the value of that ID will be container. Now to this div, I need to add some styles. So for that, in my head section, I will take a style tag. I will select that container. I will add here initially border property, 4 pixels solid. I will say here red. Here I will add some margin bottom property like 30 pixel. I will add some padding 30 pixel. Okay, just I have added border, margin, bottom, padding. And I will define width of this container as a 1200 pixel and height of this container as 300 pixel. So I am adding some width and height. Now this element I want to show on the screen. So for that, I will use React DOM dot render. I will pass tech container here, and I will say that this tech container you have to load in the document dot get element by ID of, what is your ID? It's a core element. So pass here core element. Save it. Now, if I load this document in my browser, we should be able to see one div here. See, here we are able to see one div. So let me do one thing. Here, I think this padding became more. Let me reduce padding to 10 pixel. Done. So we got here one div. Now this height looks so much. So let me reduce the height. So I will try to make it 200 pixel. Let me see how it looks. If I refresh, yes, that's it. This is what I want to do. Now, inside this div, I want to add one h2. I want to add one h2. And I will say React.js. I will close this h2. If I save it, and if I go back to my browser and if I refresh, here it should display one h2. We got one h2. I want one paragraph. So I will take here paragraph tag. And in this paragraph, I will just generate some random content. I will just add some random content. Okay, I'm adding little bit more content. So now anyways, the width of my, height of my div will increase. So I will remove this height property from here. Based on my content, height of my div will increase. So this is what right now the height of your div. And finally, I want to add one button. So after this paragraph, I will minimize this paragraph. After this paragraph, we want one button here. I will say like more details. Now, if you come back here and if you refresh, you got here one button. So right now we have created one container, a simple container in which we are displaying some data. Now this border property, I will replace with the box shadow property. Here instead of using border, now I will use box shadow. 0, 0, 10 pixel black or red. If I go back here and if I refresh, you got like this UI. Now see, suddenly your UI got changed. Now we have created one simple container. Now this container, I want to repeat multiple times. Plus, in each container, whatever I will repeat, I want different data. Right now here we are displaying React data. In some other container, I want to display Angular data. In some other container, I want to display Node data. Like this, in different container, different data I want to place. Plus, I want to repeat this container. So if you want to repeat your container or if you want to pass a dynamic data to your UI, in that case, better to create your entire user interface inside one JavaScript function. Better to create your entire user interface inside a JavaScript function. So if you create your user interface inside a JavaScript function, we have two benefits. The first benefit is we can reuse our UI. And second benefit is you can pass dynamic data inside your UI. If you create your UI inside a JavaScript function, then you have two benefits. The first benefit is we can reuse our UI. Second benefit is we can pass dynamic data into our UI. So what we will do now, this entire user interface we will not create directly and we will not assign it to a variable. Instead of that, we will create one JavaScript function. Function create container. Whatever name you want to give for your functions, you can give. In this function, we will add our JSX. We will add our JSX. So inside my JavaScript function, I have added my JSX code. And whenever this function is called, we want to return this JSX code. So for that, simply we will add here return statement. Return statement. So now whenever this function is called, this entire JSX will be written. Entire JSX will be written. Now, this function we can call here. So here we can call our function only one time, like this create container. If you go back to your browser, you won't see any kind of changes in the UI. So there is no changes in the UI. Now this function we want to call multiple times. This function we want to call multiple times so that multiple containers will be created. So to call this function multiple times, we will create one more function. Function multiple containers. Inside this function also, we will add return statement and we will take one div element. And inside this div element, we will call this create container function multiple times. How to call? So add curly brace and you just pass your function call here. This is one time. If you want one more time, again paste it. Again paste it. And now this multiple container function call, we will pass in our React DOM code. Now, if you go back to your browser and if you refresh, you should be able to see like this 3 containers. Now see, here we got 3 containers. 1, 2, 3. But right now we are displaying same data in all the container. I want different data in different container. So what we will do for that, whenever we are creating this container, here we will take some parameter. So right now I just want to change title. So I will pass some parameter called title. And this parameter I will bind to my h2 element. Now, whenever I am calling this create container, I have to pass one argument. Here I will pass React.js. Here I will pass Angular. Here I will pass Node.js. Okay, Angular 18 I am passing. Now, new version came in Angular just 3 days back. They have released a new version in Angular, that is Angular 18. So, a lot of changes you will find in Angular 18. Now, if I go back to my browser and if I refresh, now you will see that in every container, you have a different title. You have a different title. Here React, here Angular, here Node. So here we are creating different cards. Here we are creating different titles. I mean containers. So from now, you have to follow one rule blindly. What is that rule means? In React, whenever we want to create any UI in React, whenever we want to create any UI, then that UI we will always create always create inside a JavaScript function. Inside a JavaScript function. Even if you want to create one simple button, we will create that button inside a JavaScript function only. So that UI we will always create in a JavaScript function. So from now, if you want to create any UI, we will blindly create that UI inside a JavaScript function. Inside a JavaScript function. This point we are going to follow from now. So directly we will not create UI. We will not assign that UI to any variable. Whenever we want to create any UI, we will always create that UI using JSX inside a JavaScript function only. Even if you want to create one single button, that button also we will create inside the JavaScript function only. So this is what the rule we are going to follow from now. So till we finish our batch, we are going to follow this rule. So right now, this is the UI which we have created inside a JavaScript function. This is the UI we have created inside a JavaScript function. Yeah, understood this part? Anyone have any doubt or any confusion at any part?
Sir, we created two functions, right? One is creating the card and another one is passing the value return. So will we be able to pass return in the same function or no?
Same function we are passing, right? Here we have created a function.
Yeah.
Here we have added return statement. We are writing our JSX code. We have another function. It has its own return statement, and we are writing some again JSX code. Okay. Functions will have their own return statements. So inside the function, we cannot call the same function. Here you cannot call the same function. That is against your JavaScript rules.
Yeah.
So just we have created a function. So the point what you have to remember from this example is, from now we have to create our UI inside the JavaScript function. Now why? Why we have to create our UI inside the JavaScript function only? Why we have to create UI inside the JavaScript function only? Can you tell me why we have to create or why we have to follow this rule?
To pass dynamic values or to create dynamic UI.
Nice. So the first step is, like, for the first advantage is we can reuse the UI. This is the first advantage. Second advantage is we can pass dynamic data to the UI. We can pass dynamic data to the UI. These are the reasons why we are following this rule. Okay. So very, very, very important, because from throughout our course, we are going to follow these rules only. Now let's learn one more thing. So right now what we are doing, we are creating a JavaScript function, right? Like this, I am creating a function create card. Okay, I'm creating a function create card. And inside this function, we are writing some JSX code. We are adding return statement and we are writing some JSX code. Okay, let's assume that we wrote some JSX code. This is what we are doing. Now, if I create this function and if I want to call this function, how we are calling this function right now? Inside our JSX element, how we are calling this function?
Using function create card.
Yeah, so basically we are using our normal JavaScript technique to call this function. What is that technique? Use your function name, add
Call
params.
the
This is what we are doing till now. Now, React is giving us a new technique. React is providing us a new technique to call the function. So this is our JavaScript technique to call the function. Now React is providing us a new technique to call the function. What is that new technique means? Suppose if you have a JavaScript function like this, function create card, and in this function, let's assume that same you have added some return statement, you have added some JSX code, and you have written some JSX code. Now this is your function definition. Now, if you want to call this function, the old way was to call like this. But what React is saying, this function you can call this function we can call in element format. This is how we are calling the function in our old JavaScript or till now in React. Now React is saying, instead of calling your functions like this, you can call your functions in element format. Element format means your tag format. What is that tag format? For that, we can start with angular bracket. Then we can add our function name. Then close your angular bracket. This is like an opening tag, and you can add your closing tag as well. Now, this is also a function call, but this function call is in the element format, nothing but your tag format. Or else you can call this function, in self-closing tag format also. Like this. You can call your functions like this also. So this is the new way of calling the function. And if you are calling your functions like this inside your JSX element, then no need to use those curly braces. No need to add curly braces to call your functions inside the JSX element. Right now, if you see, this is our JSX element. Inside this, we are calling this function. To call this function, what we are doing? First, we are adding curly brace. Inside that, we are calling the function. But if you use this new technique, no need to add those curly braces also. Directly, you can call your functions like this. But if you want to call your functions like this in the new way, then you have to follow one rule. What is that rule means? Your function name should start with uppercase. The first letter of your function name should be in the uppercase. It is mandatory to follow this rule. If you follow this rule, then only you will be able to call your functions like this. You will be able to call your functions like this. This is a new way of calling the function in your React.js. The only thing is, while calling your function and while defining your function also, your C should be capital. Your C should be capital. Nothing but the first letter of your function should be capital. That's it. So let's try this. So what I will do here. Now this is our function multiple container, right? Now this function name. So I will comment this code here, so that you will have this code also. And here I will add. Now this function name should start with the capital letter. That's it. Now once you start your function with the capital letter, then instead of calling your function like a normal JavaScript way, what we can do is we can call our function in element format. You can use self-closing tag syntax, or you can use opening tag and closing tag syntax. You have completely options to use anyone. Now see, if I go back to my browser and if I refresh, there will be no change in my page. There is no change in my page. Everything is working perfectly. Same thing I can do for this also. So I will copy this function. I will comment this so that you will have this code as well. And I will paste here. Now what I want to do, I want to start my function name. Start your function name with the capital letter. Here C was small. I will remove this small c. I will add capital C. Now once we start our function name with the capital letter, then here if you want to call this function, no need to add this curly brace. Inside this div, directly you can call your function in element format. Create container, create container, create container. Okay, just for right now, I will not take any parameters here because we have to discuss this part separately. I will hard code the data. How to pass dynamic data, we will discuss that. So right now you have to focus on how to create a function with the uppercase and how to call that functions in the regular element or tag format. Now this is a function call. If I go back to my browser, if I refresh, everywhere you will see React.js. React.js, React.js, React.js. Now see. Now this syntax, now tell me this syntax looks better. This syntax looks better or that old syntax looks better, you have to tell me.
React syntax.
Come back here. Just let me take screenshot.
Will it
Okay,
go
now
if we write a small letter C here and call it as element format?
you cannot call. That is the rule. Okay. If you start your function name with the small letter, you cannot call your functions like this. So if you want to call your functions like element format, it's mandatory that your function name should start with the uppercase.
Okay.
Now tell me, syntax 1 is easy and simple to look and write, or syntax 2 looks simple and easy? Which looks much more better? This looks better or this looks better?
First one. I mean,
First one.
element.
Always first one looks better. This doesn't look good. So in React, we are going to follow this syntax. So our functions, this is the function call, guys. Okay, this is your function call. How to pass parameter and arguments, I will explain that part as well. But this is how we call the functions. The only rule what we have to follow is our function name should start with uppercase. So if you want, you guys can do that experiment. Try to start your function name with the lowercase and try to call your function like this in the element format and check whether it will work or not. That will be like your practice. Okay, you can try that experiment. So from now, if you want to create any user interface, we will create that user interface inside a function. And we will start our function name with the uppercase. And we will call our functions in the element format. These are the rules we have to follow. And if you are able to follow such rules, then you guys are welcome to use libraries and frameworks. The problem with libraries and frameworks are we have to follow their rules. Whatever rules they will define, we have to follow those rules. This is the only hard part of using libraries and frameworks. Libraries will have little bit less rules compared to framework. If you are using Angular, there you will have lot of rules. According to those rules only, we have to write the code and we have to develop the application. If you follow those rules, you will get lot of advantages. You will get lot of advantages. But the problem, we have to remember those rules. So slowly, we are entering into the world of React. Slowly, we are entering into the world of React. So here, I have completed one main concept of React, that is functional component. Right now, you guys know functional component. Now, what is functional component in React? A functional component in React, it is a simple JavaScript function whose name starts with uppercase and which returns, remember, which returns user interface. Now that user interface you can return in the form of JSX or you can return in the form of React elements. Any JavaScript function whose name starts with uppercase and which returns user interface. Remember, which returns user interface. Such functions in React we call as a functional component. Functional component. We call such functions as functional component. So it is a simple JavaScript function whose name starts with uppercase and which returns user interface. That's it. So in React, there are two types of functional components. There are two types of functional component. There are two types of components. There are two types of components in React. The first one is functional component. Second one is class component, which is not recommended to use. Not recommended to use. There are two types of component in React: functional component, class component. I will explain you class component also, but that will be in the recorded form because it is not at all important for us. It's not at all important for us. 95% of your entire React course will be on functional component. Only 5% I will just explain you what is class component, how to create class component, how to work with class component. Because no one in industry right now uses class component. Everybody uses functional component, and React itself recommends us to use functional component. Don't use class component. Now, why we should not use class component? There are some reasons. Those reasons you will understand once you know how to work with class component. And the new documentation of your React, is completely created on the functional component. The new documentation of your React is completely created on your functional component. Even Angular right now, in Angular we use lot of object-oriented programming. Nothing but we write the code based on classes, objects. Slowly they are moving Angular also into a functional programming. The core reason of going towards functional programming is it is a simple and fast in execution. It is simple to create and to work with it, and it is very fast in execution. That is the only reason why now your Angular also started moving towards functional programming. So right now it's on very, very basic stage. So maybe in coming versions, they will move this Angular completely into functional programming. But React is already moved from the year 2018. Before 2018, everybody were using class component. After 2018, everybody started using functional component, and React itself recommends us to use functional component. It tells that you don't use class component unless you get a requirement for it. So initially, there were few concepts which we cannot implement in functional component. So all those components were implemented only using class component. But now React released a lot of versions like 17, 18. Now we can use any kind of concept with the functional component. That's why 99% in your industry, people will use functional component only. The people who developed a class component, they are converting their class component into functional component now. Because functional component is present plus future. It is a present, it's not a future, it's a present plus future. So it is almost outdated. In coming versions, they might remove this concept only completely. So right now, whatever functions we have created, it is a functional component. This is one functional component. This is one functional component. So functional component is going to represent your view on the screen. So basically components represents view on the screen, or I can say on the web page. Component represents view on the screen or on the web page. On one web page, you can have any number of components. So you are displaying one web page in the browser. On this web page, you can display any number of components. You can display any number of components. You can display any number of components. So every component is going to represent some kind of view, some kind of view. So our React application will be the collection of components. So React application will be the collection of components. In one React application, you will have so many components. React application is a collection of components. And technically, what is a component? So there are two types of component: functional component, class component. When it comes to functional component, technically they are simple JavaScript functions whose name starts with uppercase and which returns user interface, So in our example, we have created right now two components. This is one component. This is one more component. So that's why you might have heard React follows component-based architecture. React and Angular follows component-based architecture. Nothing but in React and Angular, we just create components for creating our user interfaces. So till now in our React, we have learned introduction to React, in that introduction, we have covered what is React, purpose of React, and why React. Then we started our discussion to create UI components with React. Created UI components with React. Like first we created one button, then we created one H2, then we created one div, And then we have created multiple UI components. Then I have explained you about React DOM. What is React DOM? Then we have learned basically UI components are nothing but we have learned how to create React elements. So your React elements are nothing but your UI components. All these are React elements only. We have seen the integration of React DOM and Babel. Integration of React DOM, Babel. We have learnt about JSX. What are JSX and how to work with JSX. And why do we require JSX? That is what we have discussed. And then we created some cards, some containers for examples. And finally, in today's session, we have learned a functional component. What is functional component? How to create functional component. What is functional component? I have given you the definition and why functional component, why we have to create functional component, and how to use functional component. Why functional component means this is the reason you can give. These two reasons you can. Now, what is the difference between functional component and class component? That we will discuss later on. Because for that, first of all, you have to understand the class component. So that we will discuss after a few sessions. So these are the things what we have discussed till now. So whenever you are exploring any technology, always analyze what you have learned, how much you have learned. So if someone asks you in your demo sessions, in your React demo session, what you have learned, so you can mention all these points. You can mention all these points. So after every 3 to 4 sessions, we will try to analyze how much we have learned. So if you analyze like this, you will get the idea how much concepts you know in React, and whatever concepts are covered in that. If you have a confusion on any topic, that will come into picture. You will understand on which topic you have to work little bit more. You will understand on which concept you are not confident and you are confident. So that kind of idea you will get. And if someone asks you what you know in React, what you don't know in React, then you can mention it very clearly because you are very clear what you know in React. Okay, so this was the last demo session, guys. So from tomorrow, we don't have any demo sessions. So yesterday should be the last demo session, but still they did not change the link. They just gave one more day. So today was the last demo session. So the people who paid fees, so they will be added in WhatsApp group. They will be shared a new link so that you guys can join from tomorrow with the new link. Okay, in case if you did not receive a new link or if you did not add it in WhatsApp group, by the end of the day, they will add it. But before you join tomorrow, before we start tomorrow's session, you will have a new link with you. So they are going to mail you, or maybe they will create an account on the Ashok IT portal. And there you will find a new links. Okay, anyways, whatever that process is, that management will let you know. But from tomorrow, link is going to change. Recording access, you have to ask admin, guys, okay? To the admin people, you have to ask. But anyways, they are sending the recordings on the mail, right? I think you might have received mail. In that mail, they will send the recordings. But still, if you did not receive the recordings of the latest sessions, just connect with the admin. They will provide you the access of recording. The only thing I will say that, guys, practice. React is something which is very easy if you understand. It's very easy and you will love to work with React to create applications. If you understand it. And if you don't practice, if you take it like very chill, okay, I will practice after 3-4 days or 2 days, then slowly, React will become very complicated. It will become very complicated because in future, whenever we are going to mix all these concepts, then you will start feeling confusion. So to overcome that problem, better to have a clarity on your concepts and practice on the same day. Whatever examples I have taken, try to practice same example after this session. By analyzing the things, you should know why we are writing each and every line in our program. You should know each and every line, why we are writing this line. So in such a way, you have to practice. If someone asks you why you have taken function, without function also you can create JSX. You can write your JSX. Why you are creating function only? Then you should have an answer. Why you are using return statement? You should have an answer. What is this React DOM.render? You should have an answer. What are all these script tags? Why we are adding this script tags? You should have an answer. All this I have explained. If possible, watch recording multiple times because you guys are new, right? So you cannot understand entire in first session or by watching recording only one time. So just watch recording multiple times so that you will get the things. And if you are getting any doubts, then you can just clarify your doubts. So I will push this paint file and all this code, whatever I have done in our GitHub, so that from there you can at least have a notes with you right now. And for videos, you can just ask to the admin people. So all the demos videos they will provide. But once our batch got freezed, all the recordings will be updated on your portal. So no need to follow up admin for that. So after the session, after 3-4 hours or within 24 hours, they will upload the recording. So I will add here session 6. Yeah, that's all, guys. If you have any doubts, let me know. In case if you don't have any doubts, yeah, you guys can drop. Swapnil, you have to ask admin, okay, for recording. So this session will always be there in IT, guys. If you have knowledge, then you need not to fear about it. Okay, recession means just you will have less job opportunities. Whenever you get any kind of opportunity, you have to grab it. So don't think about recession, just think about knowledge, how you can improve your knowledge. If you have a knowledge, anyone is ready to give the job.
So,
Yeah.
difference between JXX and HTML, sir?
HTML is your normal HTML. JSX is like those are special elements which we write in JavaScript file or in the script tag. So the specialty of the JSX element is we can add our JavaScript code inside those elements. In your HTML elements, we cannot add JavaScript code.
Oh,
That is the core difference between HTML and JSX.
okay. Thank you, sir.
So are we using
Yeah.
TypeScript for the projects?
No,
Or
we will
Java?
be
Sir.
using JavaScript.
Okay, thanks.